All right, we're going to go over the electrons address answers. They're posted on the Canvas site, but I also just want to go over them and sort of just go over them and explain this a little bit, because this is a really important piece of paper. Like, you're going to want to reference this a lot. You're going to want to use this. It's a lot of help in a lot of things. So you should definitely keep this in mind. It's something that you'll like, mainly these charts. Like, these charts are crazy useful. All right, on here, like, these are good charts. So to begin with, this outlines how, like, the first energy level that exists, it has only an S sublevel. All right, so the first energy level only has an S sublevel. The second energy level has an S and a P. The third has SPD. The fourth has SPDF. All right, now with that in mind, and this makes sense because the first energy level, it has way less energy than the fourth, obviously. Electrons in the first energy level, not so energetic. So it only has one sublevel, just the S. And if you remember, S can only hold 2 electrons, so we'll get into that. So this is actually quite simple. So how many sublevels exist in the first energy level? Well, it's like, what do you got? First energy level, S. So there's just the S, so just one sublevel, right? How many sublevels exist in the second energy level? S and P. What about the third? S, P, D. And then how many would you expect to exist in the fifth energy level? Because so right here you've got 1, 2, 3, right? How many would you expect to exist if there was a fifth energy level, which there is? You would expect 5, right, if you were to follow along with that trend. Well, this is all we care about, first 4. And then again, this is just following in the, there's 1 for S, there's 2, 3. It's just asking literally how many. Does the 3F sublevel exist? So this is how you're going to start seeing notation written out. Like, 3 is the energy level, F is the sublevel. So does 3F exist? You look and you go say, third energy level, is there an F there? No, there is not. So you write a big fat no. All right, next. Next, we've got this chart. This is a really good chart. It shows you how many orbitals there are in each sublevel. Now, remember, I showed you this. So, like, this chart matches with these pictures. So, like, the S sublevel, it has just one orbital. The P sublevel, 1, 2, 3. 3 orbitals, which matches right there, 3. D sublevel, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, and then the F is 7. You'll notice it just goes up 1, 3, 5, 7. So easy enough to remember that way. And yeah. Now, a couple key things to remember about this. Super important things. All right. 2 electrons in each orbital. All right. No matter what. Any orbital, 2 electrons. Can't say 2, I'm sorry. So, an orbital can hold 2 electrons max. There can be 1, but there can be no more than 2, whether it's an S, a P, a D, or an F. So if you think about that, all right, so if you sort of think about this a little bit, then how many total electrons can an S sublevel have? Like, total, if you just wanted to think about it like that. Total, you can have 2 electrons in an S sublevel. Why? Because, well, there's only 1 orbital. What about a P sublevel? How many total electrons could you have in a P sublevel? You have 3 orbitals. Each one can hold 2 electrons, so that would be a grand total of 6 electrons. What about a D sublevel? 5 orbitals times 2 electrons, 10 electrons. And then what about F? You get the hang of this now. 14 electrons, because 7 times 2. That's not, this was an asked of you. I just want you to be able to see that on like one nice little chart thing there. So now let's go through and do some of this. So how many orbitals are there in a P sublevel? And again, this is just taking it directly from the chart. There are 3. How many orbitals are there in a D sublevel? 5. How many total sublevels can be found in the entire second energy level? So this is this one here. So you got to go look at the second energy level. And you're like, all right, second energy level has an S and a P. All right. So how many sublevels are in the S and P in the second energy level. So this requires you to think about it. So how many sublevels, S and P, second energy level, 2, because S and P. But then it says, how many orbitals are there in the entire second energy level? So now you got to think, all right, so S has 1 orbital, P has 3 orbitals, taken directly from this chart here. All right. So you look at that, and then, sorry, I just thought I was thinking about something for a second. So you think about this, you got S, you got 1, P is 3, you add them up for a grand total of 4. So there are 4 orbitals total in the second energy level. How many electrons can fit in an F sublevel? Well, we just said there are 7 orbitals times 2 gives you 14 electrons. How many electrons can fit in an F orbital? 2. Doesn't matter whether this said F, D, S, P, whatever. The number of electrons that can fit in an orbital, regardless of which one it is 2. How many electrons can fit in a D orbital? 2, P, 2, any orbital, 2. In your own words, what is the difference between a sublevel and an orbital? Sublevels are made of orbitals. They are composed of multiple orbitals. I'm not writing that. How many electrons can fit in each of the following energy levels? 2, 8, because this. So the second energy level is S plus P. So you're basically adding S and P together. So 2 plus. So you're basically adding 2 plus 6 for the second energy level. So that's 8. The third energy level is going to be S plus P plus D. So it's going to be 2 plus 6 plus 10. That's 18. And then the fourth energy level is all 3 of those, but plus the F, so plus 14, so 32. And then last but not least, this notation stuff. So basically to explain this, you have the way this is going to be written out to represent an electron. You start with, you've got your energy level, you got your sublevel. These dashes correspond to the number of orbitals. So P has 3 orbitals, so there's 3 dashes. All right. D has 5 orbitals, so there's 5 dashes. Okay. So the dash represents that. The arrow represents the electron. Now, whether it's pointing up or down doesn't really matter yet. It'll matter next week. Because this is the general notation. So let's go to the questions here. So it says, in example 2, why are there 5 lines drawn next to D? I'm just going to be saying this. I'm not going to actually write it. So there are 5 lines, because like we said, the D sublevel has 5 orbitals. Each line is an orbital. So I can write orbitals. The answer key has more detail. In example 2, what does it mean to have the arrow pointing down? That just means that it's spinning counterclockwise instead of clockwise. Don't worry about the spin stuff right now. We'll talk about that next week. It's not that big of a deal. All right, so I'm not making a big thing of that. So write a notation for an electron in 2s spinning clockwise. So according to this, spinning clockwise means pointing up. So you would write 2s. That's just what it says. S has 1 orbital, so you draw 1 dash, and you draw an arrow pointing up. That's it. Write the notation for an electron in the first energy level, spinning clockwise. Well, first energy level, it has only an S sublevel, so you'd write 1s. Like that, that's it. You keep going, right? What is wrong with this following notation? There's 2 things. Well, there are 2 things, obviously. First, you got a D sublevel. That's cool, except there are no D sublevels in the second energy level. So there just doesn't exist. So this should be a 3, and then there should be 5 dashes here because it's D, not 4. And this one, 4th energy level F. So you write 4F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dashes because F is 7. And spinning clockwise, you could just put it like that. It doesn't matter which one you put it in. So that's the basic idea for this. Again, this is a good assignment. Don't lose it. I would actually seriously almost say print this so you can have this chart and this chart Oh, you'll memorize all this stuff pretty soon in the next couple of days once we like go through more of this. So there you go. Hope that helps. Let me know if you have questions.